today's special segment on Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. Today we will be discussing everything from Mary Shelley's tragic background to her marriage with Percy Shelley, and more importantly, her book Frankenstein. Now in today's special episode we will be premiering never-before-seen footage as new tapes have just been discovered that will reveal the whereabouts of the monster from Frankenstein. Before we show any footage though, it is important that all viewers remember Mary's background and the general plot of the book Frankenstein. So I will be giving a brief recap of that right now. Mary Shelley was born on August 30th, 1797 to William Goodwin and Mary Wollstonecraft. Mary's mother died only a few days after giving birth to Mary, which left her motherless for a period of her life. Mary was born into a family of radicals, her mother being a feminist and her father a political philosopher and novelist. Mary's father remarried to Mary Jane Clairmont, a woman that Mary never got along with. Mary would meet her future husband, Percy Shelley, in 1814 after returning from a brief stay in Scotland. Percy was a frequent visitor of Mary's father and helped him with financial issues. They fell in love almost immediately, and they eloped even though Percy remained married to another woman. This put a strain on Mary's relationship with her father, as they didn't speak for a period of time, and Percy and Mary literally had to live on love. Throughout their lives, they had 4 children, in which all died except one. In 1816, Fanny Goodwin and Harriet Shelley, who was Percy's previous wife, and Mary's half-sister, both committed suicide. This left Mary with a life surrounded by death. Many critics claim that Mary's family life affected her writing greatly, especially that of Frankenstein, in which the themes of creation, birth, and death are emphasized, as well as Mary's preoccupation with pregnancy. Now, for everyone who isn't very familiar with the story of Frankenstein, Frankenstein consists of a main character named Victor Frankenstein. A common misconception is that the monster Victor creates after going away to university is named Frankenstein, but it is actually never named and only called the monster. So after Victor creates this monster using his scientific knowledge, people that he loves begin to die around him, and it doesn't take him long to realize it is the monster's doing. All the monster demands from Victor is a companion to ease his loneliness, but Victor refuses to complete a female monster, and this causes more of his loved ones to be killed. The rest of his life is then spent chasing the monster for revenge until he dies on a ship in the North Pole. Now that we've discussed all the necessary background, it's time to reveal some footage. Here is a never-before-seen interview with Mary Shelley concerning the symbolic meaning of her monster in Frankenstein and more. Hello Mary, thank you for joining us today. So in this interview we kind of want to talk about Frankenstein mostly, your book. And basically, tell us what spurred the creation of Frankenstein.
Well, I was bet to write a ghost story by my good friends Lord Byron and a doctor friend of ours and my husband Percy Shelley, and they told me, they were like, I bet you can't write a ghost story, woman, and I said, challenge accepted, and I did it, and that's where the idea for the manuscript first sprung out of.
Okay, so it sounds like when you first started to write Frankenstein it was kind of like a joke or maybe like a tiny thing, now it's turned into this big. Right. So do you want to comment on that?
Right. Actually, the night of the bet, I went to sleep, and when I woke up next morning, I had a dream, and it was essentially the basic story of Frankenstein, and that's where I started to put more thought into my novel and what I wanted to write about, and it turned more into a reflection of society after post-industrialization, and even a little bit of a commentary on Victorian motherhood, because, you know, Dr. Victor Frankenstein, the scientist, the protagonist of the story, he ends up creating life. And although he is a male, he does play the role of both father and mother to his monster, so that's where the motherhood comes in. And yes, post-industrialization was basically just the idea of technology and how it has impacted our society, and that has also come out in Frankenstein, the story.
Okay, so in what ways is Frankenstein a metaphor for technology?
Well, if you look at the story itself, Dr. Frankenstein creates his monster, and the monster ends up hurting him more than helping him. In the end, Dr. Frankenstein is haunted by his own creation, and his loved ones are eventually killed by the monster. So in that way you can see technology as something being more detrimental than beneficial. And at this point in our society with seed drills and plows and steam engines, you'd think, how is this going to end up killing its own creators and such, but at this point in industrialization it might not happen, but in the future, with the advancement of technology and such, we might find that we ourselves have as much hubris as Dr. Frankenstein did in creating life and fancy ourselves gods, and then we'll run into some trouble.
So you seem very critical of the Industrial Revolution.
Yes, I am. I am a what they call a romantic, and romantics believe in the power of nature and its authority over man, and that we can't overpower it, though we may try our best to do so. It's quite the opposite of humanists and Latin thinkers and such in the past.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us today, Mary.
Yes, no problem.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
It's a pleasure meeting you too.
That was some interesting stuff, but now it's time for the really interesting footage. Now I'm sure you all remember the copycat scientist that decided to make his own monster after reading Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So we decided to send out our own wrangler to observe and catch this monster. And here's the footage. Viewer discretion is advised.
Ain't she a beauty? Oh no, she's on the run. She's on the run. We gotta go get her. Oh no, she's just cleaning her teeth off. This is Frankenstein in its natural habitat. After eating its meal for the day, and around noontime it bites on the tree to clean off the dirty meat from its jaws. It's on the run. It's going in search of a bathroom. But Frankenstein's very particular about where it leaves its droppings.
No!